Ricky, I got your job set, brother.
Lemon hooch, baby.
Get a little video of this, I suppose. What do we do now?
The federal agency in charge of protecting the environment makes a mess of the environment.
The result? This orange muck, which slowly but surely made its way south into New Mexico.
Governors of Colorado and New Mexico have declared states of emergency. Towns are shutting down pipes that normally take clean river water into people's homes. Tests show the water carrying 300 times the safe levels of arsenic and 3,500 times the lead.
This water is hurting, and it will be hurting until EPA does substantial cleanup.
The Gold King ultimately did spur this attention, and that really led to the designation of a Superfund site. And so that kind of drove our efforts to then gather more information and help guide those remediation efforts. So at the headwaters, we have a lot of highly mineralized areas, and it's all naturally occurring. That's what initially drew the miners here and drove the entire mining industry to be so successful. Based on all that history, our job is now to monitor and distinguish between how much heavy metal loading is coming from each mine and how that differs from natural loading and how that's affecting water quality downstream at several different sources. We're working in extreme high alpine terrain that is difficult to get to, especially in the winter. You've got steep, jagged mountains all around. Accessing any of these drainages can be difficult and dangerous, and as you continue down to Durango, that gorge just becomes a little bit of a void. That's why we use a lot of citizen science efforts. If you're already out on an adventure anyways, it's not that much more effort to go ahead and put some water in a bottle. So that will attach to this.
When I saw the Gold King mine spill, it distinctly brought me back to where I grew up in the coal region of Pennsylvania, where all the streams, rivulets, and rivers do run orange already. And I don't want to see that happen in another place. There's a lifetime of skiing in Colorado, but there is a lifetime of skiing in this one wilderness. The mindset when you're in there is like, I'm just gonna go ahead and take what it gives me and try to work with it.
It is quite the endeavor to get back there. It's steep, it's gnarly, the weather's always changing, It's completely unpredictable. You go with plan A and it hardly ever works out as you expected.
We're thinking we can pack raft in here, set up a couple camps in the wilderness, and ski lines out both sides of the canyon. But also we want to find a way to contribute. So we're going to collect water samples all along the way.
Even though the Gold King mine spill affected all parts of the watershed, our expedition is focused on the most inaccessible part. We're trying to survive this crazy river that has Class 5 rapids in a narrow canyon. And when we're not on the river, we're going to be trying to ski these jagged mountains with a notoriously unstable snowpack, finding places to get water samples all throughout the watershed, and then hiking out with all of the gear that we brought in the first place.
I really hope the CFS flow lines up with the snowpack, you know? So we can like have good boating.
Here. Got a copy?
Hey, Casey, Josh, and Haley copies.
Hey, sound of one. It looks like it goes down to the river. Why don't you follow my tracks down to me?
Copy that. We'll see you soon.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've done a couple ski trips into the Weminuche, but what we really need to do is scout more to see what it's actually like to ski from the rim of this thing all the way down to the river. See how the snow is the whole way down, see if it is skiable all the way down, and negotiate all the technical mountaineering kind of descents that we'll have to do.
Looks like the classic San Juan maze.
Classic Weminuche maze.
Woo!
I heard someone say that to go on an expedition, you have to pack your bags and get on an airplane. To me, that's so backwards to what it really is. All adventure is when you get to a place and you're surrounded by uncertainty. We don't need to travel around the world to be surrounded by uncertainty. You can be on an adventure in an expedition 20 feet out your door. Combining pack rafting and skiing is definitely for adventure and fun. But what it does help us with is the mobility throughout the watershed, to get the water samples along the river and to get the water samples from up in the Alpine. I don't have to be the best kayaker. I don't have to be the best skier, the best mountaineer. I don't have to be the best water sample taker. But if I can do my best at all those different things along the way, then I can contribute to the greater remediation efforts. Usually like to have packing music on. We're going on a boat trip, so might as well take all the stuff. Gotta be wary of sharp things. We can stop bleeding. It's cool because it's new and it doesn't already smell like balls. It's less weight than a beer. So because of that, I think I can take more beer. When in Southwest Colorado.
Who do you think is going to swim the most?
Me. And I'm gonna run every rapid, even with my subpar skills. And me and Ricky have a lot of like water experience from our time in the military, but it wasn't often kayaks on whitewater. I joined the military, got out of the military to get back to skiing, started skiing all around Colorado, including all the 14ers. And throughout that process, I completely immersed myself in the mountains and skiing. I then wanted to help it, protect it, and leave it better than the way I found it. Thank you. I think Ricky's gonna swim the second most. He's pretty much one of the only people that's ever been willing to go with me on all my crazy harebrained adventures.
It's fucking great day to be alive, man! Woo!
He's my right-hand man on so many trips and so many adventures, and it's been awesome to have him along for the ride for many years. I think Ack's gonna swim third most, because Ack's even smarter than Ricky, and he's not gonna run all the rapids.
Don't leave safety to find safety. This is avalanche terrain, particularly nasty because it flows down into a terrain trap. What's the potential energy?
Him and I met at the bar, and then became friends, and now we also work together. Duct tape. Which reminds me about Casey. I'm super stoked he's coming, because honestly, he's our duct tape for this part. Casey is a professional river guide and also a super good kayaker. He's the one that's gonna keep us all alive on the river. And he can ski. He's bringing Telly back. And
And I don't think Casey's gonna swim at all. I think he's gonna grease it.
How did I end up on that trip? I don't know. I was deemed to think I knew what I was doing out there. So, yeah.
Do you know what you're doing out there?
Not with pack rafts, that's for damn sure.
Oh, that's gonna be so solid.
There was more stuff on these boats than I'd ever seen individual boats carry.
A couple straps here, a couple straps there. Looks like maybe it won't go crazy. Probably change it 3 or 4 or 500 times.
You guys fucking pumped?
The upper Animas is stout. It's full on. There's continuous class 4 plus boating for almost 30 continuous miles. You can really dial in everything on paper, but at the end of the day, until you're there staring things down, it's a whole different ballgame.
Drop the paddle! Drop the paddle! Now!
This trip felt like something out of like the 1800s, a la Corps of Discovery. We're moving 6 men and 6 boats down a river canyon. And who knows when or if we're gonna come out the other end.
Got ourselves a bit of a flapper.
Made it! Yeah, dude. Just hitting that beach that we found, where it's like I can truly de-grip from boating and actually be like, okay, I needed to just like shake and quiver and come down.
But I couldn't even enjoy that moment because it was like, okay, now what the hell are we gonna ski?
The Weminuche Wilderness was all compiled and put together in the 70s. And knowing that it wasn't formed until later, you do see some anthropogenic effect with the narrow gauge railroad, the old mines. When you have a wilderness area that's actively reclaiming itself, then we have choices. You do need to choose what your impact looks like. It's not just staying out of it. Maybe that leads you to stay out of the conversation. Maybe that leads you to stay out of the fight for it. Walk through it, flow with it, move through those mountains, learn to appreciate them, because you're not going to fight for something that you don't understand.
Up in 5.
You can't fight it. You have to flow with it. You have to let it direct you and your efforts. When you just kind of let the terrain inspire you in the way that you move, I think you build a bigger, greater understanding for it.
On the way down, we noticed there's a huge old mine shaft right over here with water just flowing out of it. So to continue to get the science and the data we're trying to analyze, we're gonna get a sample right here coming out of this mine.
If Mother Nature is going to reclaim itself, I'm not going to stand in the way of that, but I'm definitely going to find ways to help and do my part. At the end of the day, Mother Nature bats last. When you go into these places where Earth is in motion, Earth is living, alive, we're never going to beat that in these wild landscapes. It's going to beat us. Get the first swim knocked out, get the second swim knocked out, get the third swim knocked out. Water starts billowing in the boat, and you're like, oh my God, am I going to get out of this one? It's going. It's never-ending energy. Moody, turbulent, never ceasing. There's nothing we can do about that.
We try to control a lot of things we can't control, and it was like, oh, and we're just adding this element that is just vicious. This one was an ass kicker. This one like kept me terrified. It's very much emblematic of that type of ecosystem that you operate in, and you just like control nothing. Like you have no control over anything.
It's that big one. This is such a gnar swim.
It's all rapids all the time. And if something was to go wrong down there, you're definitely kind of on your own devices to sort it out. There is nowhere to hide. So the shit's hitting the fan, you're gonna be who you are.
Something is not right.
Yeah. For the good, the bad, the ugly, like I feel like I got a good check-in with like who I am. And that when like the chips are down and I'm scared, like this is how I act.
The fucking bubbles in my tent. I'm gonna sleep in this tonight.
It's classic Type 3 Sufferfest fun that in some weird way makes you double down on protecting that very place that's kicking your ass.
That one feels real good going down the trail.
I do like a lot of ventilation in my boots. Real old resort boots of mine. I figured what better trip to take them on than a ski pack raft trip into the Women Hooch. I don't always have the best gear. I don't even always know where my rent money's coming from or what my food's gonna look like that week. That's because I choose this lifestyle. And when I do have some extra resources, I'm gonna dedicate them to the landscape. Simply putting water in a bottle is not gonna change the world, but it will contribute to the greater cause.
All day up the mountain. And finally you get to ride it. And it's incredible. Woohoo! Women Hooch, baby.
I went into it with an idea of a bigger picture, helping a larger watershed. At some point along the way, along the path of this lifeblood of water moving down through these mountains, I realized at the end of it, I'm helping my neighbor. You realize how tight that camaraderie is throughout these mountains and what water creates and the bonds it makes.
So sick.
I'm fighting for Ricky, a fellow veteran. I'm fighting for ACK, forecasting in the upper watershed. I'm fighting for Casey, a river guide and also a ski guide. We're collectively fighting for each other. The more that people do get a chance to see how incredible these places are, the more people we're gonna have fighting for it. Don't need to repeat the mistakes of the extractive past. We can do better, we should do better, to make sure that these landscapes stay as they are and even get better.
Yeah, you guys got your backpacks?
Oh, I know. It's forgetting something.
1,000 times better. I'm fine.
All right, Josh, what happened?
Tore my pants. 3 places. Tore my long johns.
Yeah.
1 place. I tore my ass. A couple places.
Ripping and tearing.
Yeah.